Jordan Taylor, Happy New Year, my friend.
Happy New Year, Rajan. How you doing, my man?
I'm doing good, man. I got a question for you.
Me with it.
All right, man. Christmas just passed, and I want to know if you could give one gift to any NBA player or team or franchise, what would you give them?
Man, first gift of the year for the NBA. I want to give the gift of being traded. And I want to give the gift of being traded to anybody over the age of 30 who plays for the Sacramento Kings.
Oh, man, you talking my boy Vince? Zach
George
Randolph?
Hill, Vince Carter, Zach Randolph. Get those boys off that trash roster.
Somebody save them, please.
Save the season. I mean, a winning team. I don't know who told them that, but I mean, at least they're getting paid to play basketball, so I can go with that. But that is get them out of basketball purgatory for the sake of their careers and actually contribute meaningful minutes to another franchise.
All right, man. Well, I would give LeBron James the gift of a hairline back, man. That is the only.
Start the year off right. Give him a low blow to the king.
It's the only thing he's missing this year. He's having a hell of a year. Best season.
It's the only thing he's missing.
Yeah, that's right, man. All right, that's enough. Let's give and go.
Let's give it a go.
Nice. Give it go. Nice.
NBA Give and Go.
Yo, what up? It is time to get the give and go back in action.
That's right, man. It's 2018.
It's a brand new year, and we've got our first season 2. A little late, Rajan, but better late than ever. Am I right?
That's right, man. Went through a little bit of a lull period there. We apologize to all the viewers, but we're back on full time, giving you podcasts every week.
Excuses at the give and go. We're about results. And tonight on the podcast, we are going to give the results to you. We are halfway through the season, and we have established what we believe to be our top in. And Rajan, it's time for another one of our favorite episodes. Believe the hype or not my type. Yes, folks, it's back for a second time. We're going to be looking and diving into the NBA teams halfway through the season mark and understanding whether or not their performance is worthy of the hype that they're receiving or not really something we're interested in.
Yeah, that's right,
Rajan.
man. We got our top 7 topics listed out here for the viewers. So let's jump right into it, man. I got a topic number 1. It is the Boston Celtics, number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference. They've lost their superstar in the first 5 minutes of the season, Gordon Hayward, who they just signed, and they're still the number 1 team in the East. Jordan, do you believe the hype of the Boston Celtics, or are they not your type?
Now, we watched this opening game together, and we saw that injury, and we both agreed at the time that Boston was going to be a playoff contender with or without Gordon Hayward, but we had no idea that they were going to be a championship contender.
No.
And I look at how that roster's constructed, how a lot of the individual players that were successful on that team are gone from last year. Guys like Kelly Olynyk, Isaiah Thomas, defensive bulldog Jay Crowder, and yet they're still pumping out wins. And a lot of that can be contributed to the franchises built around draft picks over the years, like Terry Rozier, Marcus Smart, and their new guy, Jason Tatum, stepping up in a big way.
Don't forget Jaylen Brown. Don't forget Jaylen Brown in there as well, man.
Jaylen Brown had a huge improvement over the season. At this point right now, I think it's fair to say that you can believe the hype of the Boston Celtics being a good team that they are because of the pieces they have in place from their drafts and rebuilding years.
Okay, but Jordan, we're not talking about like a good team here. We're talking about is this a team that can win the championship? Do you believe that hype?
Absolutely. No, I look at this team and the way that they're built, and a lot of that comes down to their main focal point of trading of the summer, Kyrie Irving. Kyrie's numbers this year, they're not much more different than they were when he played in Cleveland with LeBron. But you look at the advanced analytics, the advanced statistics, which my boy, I love those numbers shit.
Yeah.
And it is all about the clutch rating, the clutch factors, and the ability for him to perform under pressure, and they've beaten good teams doing that.
Okay, well, you know what? I'm gonna go the other way on this one. They're not my type, Jordan. They're not my I'm not just being a salty Raptors fan.
Okay.
If you look at their schedule so far, they've played a lot of home games. They played a lot. They're 18-5 at home this season. But they've been impressive. They've won with their defense, but I'm just not sure they've got the firepower when it comes down to it in the playoffs. Like, a lot of these guys are very young, and despite the record now, I think they're bound to get on a losing streak here. I don't think they're going to finish with the number one seed. Honestly, I'm not believing the hype of the Boston Celtics at this point. I think.
But let's look at that team. You've got Al Horford, who's been in playoffs most of his career. Kyrie Irving, he's got a ring associated with him. There's a lot of guys on there with experience from other teams that they played with. And yeah, you know what? You put them up against the Houston Rockets or even the Golden State Warriors. No, I agree with you. They're not going to be able to compete if it comes to the NBA Finals.
Hey, even
but the Eastern Conference is quite open this year. And I think that they have a legitimate chance of going to the Finals, or at least Eastern Conference Finals, based with the roster they have.
I think if they make the Eastern Conference Finals this season, they celebrate their season. They're happy. Because next year they're adding Gordon Hayward, adding him to this core, and they got possibly another lottery pick coming in too. They could be good in the future, but right now, I don't believe the hype. I think Cleveland would still beat them in a series, to be honest, and probably one other team in the East too that could beat them in a series. We should probably jump into that.
What do you think? Which other team?
The Toronto Raptors. I think the continuity and everything with the Toronto Raptors. I think they could beat the Boston Celtics too in a playoff series.
So, you're saying that you're believing the hype of the Toronto Raptors this year, being an unbiased fan of the NBA. You don't feel any sort of moral ambiguity treating the Raptors like they're a playoff team this year that can win it all?
Okay, here's the thing with the Toronto Raptors. I believe the hype of the Toronto Raptors as, I'm not going to say the best team in the East, because until somebody beats LeBron James in the Eastern Conference, I don't think anybody gets that title of best team in the East. So I'll put them as
That's right. That's super fair.
I'll put them as the unrivaled number 2 team. I'm going to put them above the Celtics. I believe the hype of the Raptors. So far, up to this point, they've played the most road games. They've only played 15 games at home compared to 23 games that Boston's played at home. The Raptors have the best home record in the entire league at 14-1. And they've just played a different style of basketball this season. They're moving the ball. They're moved into the top 10 in assists. They've got I believe the second highest point differential in the league behind Golden State this year. They're just playing a brand of basketball that works in the playoffs. And this is different than any Raptors team we've seen in the past. DeMar DeRozan has taken his game to the next level, which he seems to do every season. Like, people start doubting DeMar, and what do you see? You see him add a different thing to his repertoire each season. And this year, it's that three-point shot. Like, from a guy who had made 34 three-pointers all of last season, he's already hit 37 this year. So, with that steady improvement, they've become basically the Houston Rockets of the Eastern Conference. They're scoring at will.
Whoa. Hold up. That's a very bold accusation. Eastern Conference Houston Rockets, as in what? They pass the ball around real pretty and shoot threes?
But the only difference is they are the only team besides the Golden State Warriors who are both top 6 in offensive rating and defensive rating this season. The only team.
Now, Rajan, my boy, I love me some good old-fashioned Toronto Raptors basketball.
That's right.
But the thing that will haunt this team and continue to haunt this team moving forward is its lack of playoff success. I can't get behind this team until I see them beat Cleveland. And do you think that they can beat Cleveland this year with their new fancy, 6th-ranked offense, 5th-ranked defense in the league?
If they play defense, which they can play defense a lot better than Cleveland, I'll give them a fighting chance of making it.
I watched LeBron James tear Norman Powell and DeMar DeRozan apart on offense last year in the playoffs. They had no answer for him. They've got their rookie, mind you, nice, but still completely raw, OG Anunoby.
Who shut down James Harden earlier this season.
James Harden's a different player than LeBron James. We're talking about very different skill sets. Speaking of different skill sets, we've got a couple guys who moved during the offseason over the past year and watched some of their statistical changes. Rajan, is there someone in your mind that you feel like has had quite a astounding statistical change based on a fresh location, i.e. someone you would consider for most improved player at the halfway mark so far?
For most improved player? Hey, you know what? I got to give major props to a guy who people just threw under the bus. They thought that he was just, a throw-in piece. I'm talking about the player who was traded for Paul George, Mr. Victor Oladipo. Jordan, do you
Who
believe?
knew at the halfway mark that we'd be talking about Victor Oladipo and not Paul George in this conversation?
I think, so far, seeing the results, it almost looks like Indiana won that trade.
I know. I agree. I look at the numbers that both Sabonis and Oladipo are putting up for Indiana, and they're fighting for a playoff spot. Something that we all, counted them out for at the very beginning of the season, right away after that trade happened.
Yeah, and Oladipo was putting up all-star caliber numbers this season. So, Jordan, do you believe the hype of Victor Oladipo as a legit all-star talent in this league?
Now, Victor Oladipo is one of these guys that's a victim of circumstance. Last year, playing behind Russell Westbrook, you don't get a lot of touches, you don't get a lot of offense run through you if you're on the Thunder. Now, that has changed a little bit this year, I think, with how many superstars have added on. But Nate McMillan has done a great job in Indiana as their head coach to line up and lay out a high-paced, fast-tempo offense that suits Oladipo. Because, this guy was a top 2 pick overall in the draft. I wouldn't even consider him a bust. I still think he's a very good player. I just think every other coach he's had, the Scott Skiles, the different ones in Orlando, have tried to force him into a mold that he's not. And that's where his statistical output drops because he's trying to be someone he's not. Nate McMillan recognized that and says, this is the team I have, and this is what I can use with that team. Let's get a guy who's fast, who's quick to the basket and has a little bit of a jumper. Let's get him running. And that's what's made him become successful so far. As far as Victor Oladipo being an all-star presence, I believe the hype in this case. I think this dude has a real good shot. There's a lot of openings this year. The first rankings came back for All-Star Weekend, and we have, three rookies on the list so far? That's unheard of.
Yeah, there's some very good rookies this season. We'll get into that in another podcast, but as far as Victor Oladipo goes, Jordan, I'm going to have to agree with you, man. I believe the hype. His shooting numbers are just through the charts this year compared to previous years. He's really worked hard this summer to improve that jump shot, become a solid three-point shooter as well. His defense has always been great. I think, maybe...
He's never really been a three-point shooter before.
No.
And I think a lot of the testament that's come from his game, he said, I credit playing with Russell Westbrook that kind of gave me this tenacity this year. What do you think about that?
That's interesting. It's like he played with him and learned from him, but couldn't really play with him.
Right?
So he just kind of watched him and learned along the way, but could never really play with him because I think he needs the ball in his hands to be successful. I think
absolutely
when you have a Russell Westbrook on your team, you're gonna build around him. So when Victor Oladipo would end up getting the ball, it was like he was not really in rhythm. He wasn't really touching the ball. It was kind of like when Westbrook wanted to play off, it was like, all right, here, take the ball and do something. And now the offense is being run through Oladipo, and he's getting into rhythm a lot quicker, and he's played really well this season and brought the Pacers, who everyone thought was going to be a joke this season, into playoff contention.
Speaking of playing playoff contention for us this year, let's move a little bit down the list on a team that's biting at Indiana Pacers' heels to get into that 7th and 8th spot. Trust the process, Rajan. Philadelphia is one game out of the playoffs right now, following a little bit of a losing streak. They've won 5 in a row. Rajan, do you believe the hype that we can trust the process as playoff basketball instead of rebuild basketball now?
The Philadelphia 76ers are interesting to me because I think all hinges on the health of Joel Embiid. And to be honest, they're not my type. They're not my type, Jordan. I can't trust Joel Embiid to stay healthy for an entire season. He's done great so far. But Jordan, hear me out.
What kind of comment is that
man.
where you rely on the health of somebody, man? Because, like, Russell Westbrook went down, and yeah, that team didn't make the playoffs. That's a very standard comment to say, well, if they're not healthy, they're not going to win. Well, yeah, no, of course.
But,
no kidding.
Joel Embiid doesn't have the same work ethic that Russell Westbrook has. Joel Embiid has been injured for most of his career and doesn't really seem to care. He seems more interested in his Twitter followers and sliding in DMs than he is about basketball, to be honest. And
it's all personality.
I don't know, Jordan.
I don't mind.
But you see, like, he played one overtime game this season, and then he was out for the next, 4 games. Like, how can I trust somebody like that? I can't trust the process, Jordan. Do you believe the hype?
Okay. I look at that team, and I think that team's got a really good core instated. They've got Robert Covington, J.J. Redick, brought him in this year. Ben Simmons has blown everyone's expectations. Ben Simmons is probably the quietest rookie who's just putting up killer numbers this year. I think he's definitely one to be Rookie of the Year, kind of Blake Griffin mold type almost.
Yeah,
does he remind you of like a Blake Griffin?
Like a LeBron, basically, man. Like he's putting up these triple-double numbers almost every game. He's not.
No,
does not
I can't put him
rookie.
in the same conversation as LeBron. That is not a. I can put him in the same conversation as Blake Griffin, but not LeBron.
Man, the way he plays, he's a generational talent. And, the biggest beneficiary from Ben Simmons playing really well is Markelle Fultz, who everyone's forgotten about.
Yeah.
If Ben Simmons and Joel Embiid weren't having the seasons that they're having, do you imagine, how much flack would be falling right onto Markelle Fultz's injured shoulders?
That's maybe a gift we should give back to him, is the gift of new shoulders. Because that guy is...
Yo, he needs to get in line. I'm in line first to get a new shoulder. For those of y'all that don't know...
Roger, which team we moving on to next? What's next on the list?
I was just going to say, for those of y'all that don't know, I got a busted shoulder too. So I feel Markelle Fultz's pain there.
Nobody cares about your bust-ass shoulder.
Oh, my God. All right, Jordan. The next topic here is, the opposite side of that Victor Oladipo trade. We're talking about Paul George, Russell Westbrook, and Carmelo Anthony with their big three
Super
in OKC.
Friends. Super Friends Part 8.
That's right, man. So they struggled coming out of the gate. They're trying to figure out their rules. And Russell Westbrook was deferring a lot to his teammates. But since then, they've really picked it up. They've got some solid wins, and they're looking like a real super team, Jordan. Do you believe the hype of this new look Thunder, or are they not your type?
The Thunder are not my type. You know that I hate super teams. I think that super teams are the worst thing to happen to the NBA in terms of competitiveness. The start of the season is a true testament to trying to put together a team when you've traded for all your players in the preseason. Very challenging to get a working offensive and defensive scheme with the roster you have in place. Now, that being said, they're climbing up the rankings at an alarming rate into a solid home game first-round playoff position by the looks of it.
Yep.
Look at the personnel that they have, and if you go past the 3 stars, and, Steven Adams, who's been playing great this year for them, the exact kind of hustle energy they need from the outside, the superstars, I don't see them competing with Golden State or Houston. They can play defense, and they have a little bit of shooting, but I don't think they have enough 3-point shooting to keep up with this new age NBA we keep talking about. Fast pace, high offense, multiple 3-pointers. If they can get to the second round, I think that would be a win. Even Western Conference Finals is definitely in their picture, but I don't see them topping off Houston or Golden State this year based on what I've seen so far from the team's ability to play.
See, Jordan, I'm going to go the other way here. I hear your points, but when it comes down to it, stars win playoff series. Superstars win these playoff series, and when the rotations are cut down to 7, 8 guys, those other guys aren't as important. And I feel like the OKC Thunder have enough star power, enough superstar power to just win series. Like Carmelo Anthony's a guy, if he gets hot, can win you a series. Paul George, if he gets hot, he can win you a series. Russell Westbrook, the same
Melo
thing.
hasn't been in a meaningful playoff team game since the New York Knicks went in 2010.
Yeah,
when they had Tyson Chandler, an OK Amare who wasn't busted yet, and himself.
So can you
and
imagine?
Chauncey Billups, I guess, was on the roster.
Can you
too,
imagine
man.
how
Shout out to
motivated?
Chauncey. That boy, nice.
Can you imagine how motivated Melo's going to be in these playoffs this year? He's actually playing for something.
Playing like that right now? Because to me, he's not.
He's been over the last little while here since they've been going on this run, and Melo's accepted the role of third string, third banana. He's been shooting over 50% from the floor. He's been
third banana boat buddy.
Yeah,
the Chris Bosh mold.
Third banana boat buddy. Melo has accepted that role, and he's hitting threes at a good clip. He's shooting over 50% from the floor. I think he's learned how to make it work, and Russell Westbrook is back to being dominant, triple-double, attacking in your face Russell Westbrook. And I think once you get into a playoff series with these guys, man, they've got a shot against anybody.
Damn. All right, well, we'll leave that one separated for now.
Yeah, man. So
moving down the list for the Western Conference, what do you got as our next topic?
All right, Jordan. So we had some shots fired this morning. We had some shots fired from all the way from Lithuania. We had LeVar Ball up in the media again, and he was talking about the Lakers, and he was talking about
up in that media again. He talking.
That's all he seems to be doing. So he was dropping Lakers coach Luke Walton. He was name dropping him this morning, and he said straight up that Luke Walton has lost the locker room and that nobody wants to play for him anymore. And when Lonzo Ball was asked about this in an interview yesterday, they brought up this interview, and he said, my dad's going to say whatever he wants to say. And then they said, well, how do you feel? Do you like Luke Walton? Do you like playing for Luke Walton? And Lonzo Ball replied, I'll play for anybody. Jordan, do you believe the hype of the Ball family versus Luke Walton and the Lakers organization? Or is this story just smoke? Is it not your type?
First off, this shouldn't even be on this podcast segment.
No, we talking LeVar. We got to talk about LeVar.
I don't know. LeVar to me is not a basketball entity. LeVar to me is the equivalent of basketball as one of the Kardashians dating a basketball player is the equivalent of basketball. He is around it. He is not a part of it.
Well, he's kind of forced himself down the throat, and media gives him attention. So, Jordan, do you believe this hype? Like, I'm hearing rumors now that the Lakers may be looking to trade Lonzo because of all this.
All right. First off, it's just rumors. It's become very apparent, even in the year 2018, that the media will chomp the bit at any soundbite that they can get that the inkling of some rumor is in the works and can cause discord and cause pandemonium within a franchise to say, oh my God, they're going to trade them. And this dude's like, what? Nobody told me that, and cause trouble. That's their job. LeVar speaks because I think LeVar deep down wants to coach the LA Lakers at some point. I don't know how or why he would consider that. I don't think Luke Walton's lost the team. I think that the team has lost Luke Walton. You look at that team and how much hype it had going into the season, right? We're talking about, young rookies, promising second, third year players supposed to take the next elite level step. And guess what? Nobody did. Julius Randle lost his starting position. He's gained it back now, but he hasn't really gone past any, his statistical averages from the other year. Brandon Ingram, while scoring more points, isn't doing anything else across the board for his team. Lonzo's hot and cold, which we're very aware of.
Yeah.
Luke Walton's got nothing to worry about. still a rebuilding team. No one's taken that next level step. You know who has taken that next level step, though, Rajan?
Who's that?
Is D'Angelo Russell. But he's not even a Laker anymore. That boy averaging 20 points a game before going down with a knee injury for the Brooklyn Nets this year.
That was I think they made a mistake trading I'm forgetting his name. D'Angelo Russell. I think they made I think they made a big time mistake trading him and expecting Lonzo Ball to come in as a superstar and change the franchise. Like, people came in with the expectation that he's going to be just putting up buckets. He's going to be shooting from three, putting up Steph Curry numbers. But he's really not that mold of player, to be honest.
No, and you know what? It's thank God they got Kuzma back, because if they didn't, people would start looking at this trade and understanding that it probably was very lopsided for the Lakers.
Oh,
so no, I don't think
man.
I don't believe the hype that Luke Walton's job security is in danger. I think his small but strong repertoire of history with the Golden State Warriors and with this young team is working. I think that all young teams go through this. Were they a little bit farther down the standings than they wanted to be? Yes, but I had no inkling at the beginning that the Lakers were going to be a Western Conference playoffs team at the end of the year. I think LeVar is blowing his horn. I respect what he's trying to do from a business standpoint. The guy knows how to stir the pot, knows how to make people buy expensive shit shoes, man. I would never wear a Big Baller brand.
No.
Stating that right now.
Me neither, man. We do not support Big Baller Brand. Unless y'all want to jump on as a sponsor, then I might reconsider. But until
if
then,
Big Baller Brand pays us, I will say whatever they want us to on this podcast. You betcha.
We will.
Shameful plug. We need one. LeVar, shout out to LeVar Ball. Give us a shameful plug.
We will sell out for Big Baller Brand.
We will. Big Baller sell out.
All right,
Rajan, so what do you think about this being Lakers your number 2 team in the league as far as your fan base goes? Someone who I actually am still surprised you're a Laker fan, thinking you were a big bandwagoner. Do you believe the hype of Luke Walton and LeVar Ball's comments?
It pains me.
Even Lonzo trade rumors. What about those two? Yeah, give me those two.
It pains me, Jordan, but like I'm starting to believe the hype. You know, like there's only so much Magic Johnson can take, and at first he thought, okay, I'll support LeVar. You know, he's a passionate guy. He's this and that. But then they initiated that LeVar Ball rule, where if family members are getting tickets to the games, the media members are not allowed to go speak with them in that area where they sit. So they already had enough.
That's smart. I thought that was a good rule.
They already had LeVar Ball rule in the Lakers stadium there. And then on top of that, they publicly asked LeVar Ball to stop talking about Luke Walton. And the second he gets to Lithuania with his 2 sons, who now are playing in the Lithuanian league out there, he opens his mouth right away. And he starts talking more smack about Luke Walton. Like, I don't know what his deal is. I don't know if he's trying to get a coaching gig himself. If he thinks he's the only one that knows how to coach Lonzo. Right. You know, maybe he thinks he's the only one that can coach Lonzo. Because he keeps saying they're too easy on my boy. They don't know how he likes to be coached. So I think he's got something personal he's trying to gain from this. And even Luke Walton was just last year highly regarded as one of the top young coaches in the league. He helped guide the Golden State Warriors to that 73-win season. Like, he coached them for most of that year when Steve Kerr was out with an injury. People forget that. So I'm believing the hype on
There's
this.
There's something to be said about coaching the Warriors and coaching the Lakers as of 2017.
Yeah, there's a difference, but I mean,
a lot of the championship teams run themselves. Rick Carlisle with the championship Dallas Mavericks a couple of years back said, "Yeah, I don't even think I wrote up an offensive play for that team. There was just so much IQ that they just ran themselves."
It's true, and just like the Golden State Warriors, they had superstars, and I think that's what the Lakers are after right now is they want superstars. So if they can package Lonzo Ball and maybe some of their big contracts to open up some free agent space this summer, I could see them doing it, man. I don't know if Lonzo Ball, with what he's been so far, is worth the headache of LeVar talking smack about your organization every single day. It's just, It gets to a point.
Lonzo Ball is not worth that you get from your own teammate's dad
Yeah.
about the Los Angeles Lakers. As of his performance right now, it's not worth it.
It's not. So, we'll see what happens in the next couple months here. Trade deadline's about 2 months away.
That's right. We'll see. We'll be back for another trade deadline special podcast where we'll break down what we think is going to happen or give details on the actual news as it comes up.
That's
Rajan,
right, Jordan. So,
last topic
yeah.
of the night.
All right, Jordan. So, we got one more topic here, and I'm going to ask you, man. It's the number 2 team in the Western Conference, led by James Harden, who is now on the shelf for a couple weeks, and Chris Paul, who has returned from the shelf just a couple weeks ago,
CP3.
and Mike D'Antoni and this revamped defensive Houston Rockets team. Do you believe the hype that they are a legit threat to dethrone the Golden State Warriors in the playoffs this season?
Let's not get this mistaken. The reason they are winning games is because of Mike D'Antoni's offense. They are playing better defense, largely because of Clint Capella and Trevor Ariza. Trevor Ariza being that consistent journeyman who does the same thing every year for you.
Don't
same
forget
stats
PJ.
for the past 5-6 years. Capella's stepped up huge for them, which was very apparent when he was out how much they missed him.
Yep, yeah. Don't forget PJ
Like you
Tucker, CP3. They got defenders on this team now, Jordan.
That's right. I agree. They got defenders now, which is what they need to go out and get this summer. But that being said, like we spoke about earlier, you consider these guys the Western Conference Raptors or the Eastern Conference Rockets,
Yeah, I kind of like that. The Western Conference Raptors. There you go.
2 teams, very prominent, great players on them, can't get past the second round. And what did they do? They added Chris Paul, a guy who's notorious for can't getting out of the second round. Is this the year that they go over and they can get out of the second round? Well, look at who they'd have to play. As of the standings right now, I'm seeing them probably having to play OKC, Minnesota, or San Antonio in that second round. And honestly, like you and I both talked about, OKC being a good team, they have the potential to beat them.
That's
it's
right.
not going to be easy. It comes down to who's injured and who's playing well at the end of the year. I think that this team can go to the conference finals, but they can't beat Golden State. I'm sorry, Houston. I'm sorry, the city of Houston. Y'all great, but you guys aren't ready to usurp Steph Curry, the Golden State Warriors, unless Steph Curry's bum ass ankle and Draymond Green's bum ass shoulder all kick in at the same time and give you a free pass to the finals.
Yeah, they need something special to go down. I'm with you on that one, man. I don't believe the hype. These guys are not my type, Jordan. And James Harden, we saw him last year. Playoff time came, defenses tightened up, and when it came down to it, he shriveled up in the moment. He didn't take advantage, and he played terribly in that last series, and especially that closeout game, where we gave him a lot of flack for it, too.
Like a magician. James Harden, the magician, and the playoff magician. He disappeared.
And CP3 has been known to do the same, Jordan. So unless these guys can prove it, similar to the Raptors, how their stars have been known to fade in the playoffs too, until they go and do it, we have a lot left to be desired with this team.
There's something to be said about hard-proof evidence in the NBA that needs to be shown to guarantee yourself as a legit contender.
And nobody's saying anything about San Antonio. These guys just come in and win no matter who's on their roster.
Coaching thing, that's a system. You gotta trust the process. The same thing is you gotta believe in the system. They got scrubs for days, but those scrubs all know their roles, and everybody knows how to pull the W's out.
Yeah, that's right.
Now,
man.
I will say this about Houston, and the reason why I think they're not going to win is Houston with Mike D'Antoni gets a lot of comparisons to a very similar new age run and gun 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns squad, which we talked about a little bit on the podcast last year. These teams that have to shoot the ball at a high clip to win 2 games in a row on a very demanding schedule in the playoffs, you miss some shots, you have a bad shooting game, and that's how your team's built, say goodbye, right? You got to be shooting well the entire playoff series, which is very hard to do.
Yeah, that's right, man. Especially when defenses tighten up, the whistles are they're kept in check. People are allowed to play through the contact a lot more, and that's when like these players that rely on getting to the line, like James Harden, that's when they struggle. So,
That's right.
all right, Jordan. Well, I think that's all the time we got today.
Hey, that was great. Listen, if you like that episode and you want to hear more, you can check out our latest episode with our boy King Handles, aka Joey Haywood. We've got it up. We've got a new YouTube channel. Rajan, we YouTube famous now, bruh.
Yeah, we on YouTube, man. We on the tube. Let's get it.
Check us out at Give the letter N apostrophe Go podcast on YouTube, or you can find us on iTunes under the same handle. The Google Play Store for your apps. You can find us on Podcast Addict, as well as we're on Twitter, on Facebook with Give the letter N Go podcast. This has been another episode. We are so glad to be back this season.
That's
Second
right.
season on the Sound Waves, trying to bring you what you need to hear. Remember, we give you the information. Now go do something with it.
Give and go.
Give and go.
And we out.